Shout out to the old school, back in the days. Missing all the good times, don't let the memories fade. Shout out to the old.
Welcome back and thank you for joining us on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. My name is Dylan.
And I'm Thundercloud.
Gabriel. I'm Allie.
And today we're talking, like we regularly do, with news and views through Radio Regent at the Daniel Spectrum Building at 585 Dundas Street East. And today we are coming to you live yet again. Thank you for joining us. If you've been with us this past week or so, we've been experiencing some wet and wild weather. And we're finally able to dry everything and step outside and not be soaked without worrying about getting soaked. So,
Yeah, well, I just stepped out of the shower, so I usually go first because these guys are very nice to me. And it's great to see everybody. Hey, congratulations, Olivia Chow, the new Toronto mayor. And she'll be sworn in 2 weeks, and I'm sure we'll find improvements in the future. So, very happy about Olivia getting in there. So I think
What sort of improvements do you want to see?
talk about that another show. I'm just on a roll here, going to my script. I went to the Access Me play in Aki Studio Theater with Cryptcast star Frank Hall, who was a performer, a playwright, and a crypt dancer. And it was interactive. It was really fun. I took my friend Tom. That was one of my little pride celebrations. And I went to a dance at the very cool Impact Lounge, which I met the owners and the staff. They were very welcoming to me, and we partied and had a good dancing time. So also I have a little thank you to give to Toronto Music Festival. They sponsored me, and I regret that the last show was kept quiet as for certain circumstances. And anyway, I wanted to say thank you. It was a great music fest, and they sponsored me this beautiful shirt.
oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Very
So
nice.
they gave me this shirt and this lanyard, and it was awesome. And that was June 21st to the 24th, and it was at the Stacked STACKT Marketplace.
Is it down on Bathurst, south of
You
King?
got it. It's
On the west side? Just before the bridge at Bremner.
I'm trying to see the address, and I just got out of the shower.
Right next to the Fort York.
Can you see that number there?
Right next to the Fort York.
200 and
Yep, it's 28 Bathurst Street, Toronto. So that's the southwest corner, just before you cross the bridge over the GO Transit Viaduct.
28, right?
Yeah, so just south of King.
28 Bathurst Street.
Opposite
So,
Bremner.
thank you very much. The concerts were fabulous. And a little before that, I went down to the powwow, and I believe that was the 17th and the 18th. And I went on the 18th thinking it was powwow day, and I was going to get colorful photographs. And what did I get? I got an Indigenous concert. So that was great. And I bought, photos, art and swag, and saw friends and heard amazing bands. So keep your ears and eyes and senses out for this Toronto Festival next year. Will be on, and also the NAMI Res Powwow and Music Day was on too. So that was really cool. So I've been to meetings and more meetings. I just want to give a shout out to Native Earth Performing Arts. We are thrilled to have been awarded this year's Ray Ferris Innovation and Sustainability Sustainability Grant at this year's Dora Mavor Moore Awards. And the annual grant is awarded to a Toronto-based producing company selected by a committee based on a detailed production project proposal recognizing advances in theatrical design and the promotion of sustainability in live theater. So they're saying Chimigwech, and that's just fabulous. That was, I believe it was for the Two Spirited Cabaret as well. That was a night at Buddies in Bad Times. Catch that next year as well. And so that was super. And I've been to Communications Competency Award, Communications Competency Workshop. I wish there was an award for communications competency. It was a workshop by a woman I know named Chris, and Joel Klassen was from Community Capacity Builder at Yonge Street Mission. He invited everybody. It was very informative, and hopefully things will improve as we all learned something about communications. So, also there was the Sun Ra Orchestra workshop on June 27th, and there was the Sun Ra Orchestra playing. There was a big concert the other night that I went to, the communications meeting. I hear it was fabulous, and I had friends play with the orchestra there. So, I know what it was. There is a summer youth camp. Registration is open for 15 to 18 years old, and it's date July 10th to July 21st, Monday to Thursday. Time 12 p.m. to 3, and the location is St. Jamestown. For more info, contact Raed Farhad, Youth Camp Lead, RAAED.FERHAD at tccld.org. The benefits are development project management skills, gain youth volunteer hours, obtain certificates of accomplishment, and positive personal development, small grant to carry out a community project, and a $25 gift card. And you know how I like those perks. So I think that's all for my wordiness. And I had an awesome pina colada, even though I missed the Sun Ra show last night. The night before. I'm getting confused. There's so many events in so little time. Okay, guys, take it away, because that's Thundercloud for today.
Thanks so much, Thundercloud. You always have so much interesting, beautiful things to tell us about events in the city. Thank you so much for the work you do and for just letting us know about all the great things happening and how we can get involved. I'm going to send it over to Gabriel.
All right, sounds good. I know you want to talk about Mayor Chow too, so we can both discuss this. But I found this this article in it's called it's a stories article about Chow and what she's proposing to do to fix housing. So despite an unexpectedly tight race, Olivia Chow was elected Mayor of Toronto during Monday's by-election. And now the conversation indelibly shifts to what she will do to solve some of the chronic housing problems facing Toronto. And mind you, that will be without the help of strong mayor powers, which Chow has maintained she will not be utilizing during her term. Do you guys know what strong mayor powers are?
So this is something that can play back to the COVID stuff after Ottawa was frozen by the truckers, who were lovely people standing up for the rights of people across the country. Following that, Justin Trudeau had some issues with his manliness and power trip, so he decided to create a strong mayor power thing that made everybody quite frustrated, and it looks like we're getting rid of that for now, so it's good to hear.
Yeah, I looked it up just to have like a definition. It's still a little beyond what I understand. But in a typical strong mayor system, the elected mayor is granted almost total administrative authority with the power to appoint and dismiss department heads. In such a system, the mayor's administrative staff prepares the city budget, although that budget usually must be approved by the council. So I guess she can just veto things, get rid of department heads.
It's kind of like when you're a kid and like somebody is playing wizards or magicians or whatever you want to call it, or like whoever we are, and somebody's holding the wand and they get to do whatever they want.
All right. Well, it seems like Chow is not going to be participating in that.
She might make magic happen, but she's not going to be a strong mayor power without a wand or anything, as they say.
Yeah, she's going to do it the more noble route. So Chow has laid out a number of renter-centric goals over the course of her campaign. One of her earlier promises was that she will establish a renters' action committee composed of city staff, renters, housing providers, and advocates. This dedicated task force would create anti-renoviction bylaws, advocate for real rent control, and review existing policies and programs related to renters. What do you guys think about that?
Ali, you have any thoughts on that?
On that specifically, like
Or any of
Anything you want to share at all?
anything.
The stuff we've been talking about, or your own things you want to share as well?
sure, yeah. I mean, I guess I could like introduce myself. I'm like an organizer with the Encampment Support Network Parkdale, and we've kind of been through a few of these things with the city, like these kind of consultative processes similar to the one you just described, where they bring in advocates and stuff like that, and even we've pushed to try and forefront folks with lived experience to be at the table during these conversations. But regardless, even when that does happen, the message delivered or conveyed is very clear. It's just the issue is not that they don't know what's needed. I think it's just not being delivered on, right? Like everyone's asking for real housing, whatever that looks like, and the housing's just not being built fast enough or at all, I think.
Right, yeah. And I think Chow is even proposing to, or I don't even know if this is a proposal or if she's actually going to do this, but she's going to build, I think it was 25,000 or 2,500, I'm pretty sure. When I look that up. 25,000 rent-controlled homes over the next 8 years on city-owned land. So, I mean, I don't know how she's going to necessarily fund that. She has said she's going to raise the taxes, and she said she's going to... This was one thing that sounded nice. One of Chow's more controversial initiatives will be to raise the vacant home tax to 3%, up by 3%. I don't even know why that's controversial. I mean, that sounds like a good...
Well, basically, anytime you keep a home empty and don't rent it to somebody who could use it to live in, then you pay a tax for just keeping your house empty. So whenever your house is not being rented, you're paying more tax because you're keeping a family who could use your house as a place to live. I think
that's fair.
I think they should tax them more if it's empty.
Yeah, I think it should be more.
I think 5% is good.
5, 10.
Yeah,
If you're not using, if it's just a bunch of rich people who have houses and they're not...
yeah. If you own something and you're not being taxed on it, but you're enjoying the liberty and freedoms of having a taxpayer's benefits, then it makes sense that obviously you should just pay into that and make it a bit more so that we don't have to keep raising it every year. Just make a decision that's like, okay, the next 3 years, 6% is actually much better than 3%, and we'll balance the budget and have more money for everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, sorry, back to what we were talking about. You were saying that there's a lot of people who want more houses to be built, but they're not actually getting built.
I think that's part of the issue, but I think the larger issue is like housing affordability is the problem, right? So I think everyone kind of that has the power to change things, they want people to believe that all that's needed is supply. But in my opinion, what's really needed is rent controls. Like you mentioned that Olivia Chow is going to have rent controlled units, but that's like, it's kind of like rent control in the sense that the rents can only be raised above the guideline or at the guideline every year. But that if you actually look deeper into her plan, the proportion of deeply affordable housing is far lower than the figure you cited. I think it's only 1,000 or 2,000. She plans to build deeply affordable housing that's actually affordable for the upwards of 10 to 15,000 homeless people in Toronto. So, and that's in 10 years from now. So even if she does deliver on her plan, it obviously falls far short of seriously addressing the housing crisis, which is growing, as you know, and more and more people are getting evicted or priced out of this city, ending up in encampments as the shelters are closing and bursting at the seams. So I personally don't think Olivia Chow's plan is a serious one. I don't think that we should give her a free ride because of her progressive reputation or perception of that.
Yeah. So what do you think should be done? I'm sure it's many smaller things, or it's. But yeah.
You mentioned the strong mayor power. Like, I think any mayor in a municipality in Ontario is not going to be able to do very much on the housing front without getting blocked by the province, I think. And even the strong mayor powers, there's the big caveat that it needs to be in line with the province's goals. The mayor can't just do anything willy-nilly. They need to actually have the consent of the province to apply those powers, right?
Right.
So, as you can see on the provincial level, Doug Ford's government and even the Liberals before them, they take turns privatizing everything and underfunding everything so that there's a justification for the shift to privatization of healthcare, education, and all this. And so, obviously, the developers and the landlords are... those are the interests that they represent as well, all these major parties. And so that's what keeps the profits going, is making sure that, you know, any housing that is built is luxury condos and stuff like that.
Right.
And so when Olivia Chow says that they'll be rent controlled, yeah, sure, they'll be rent controlled, but what the price of rent will be, what, $2,000, $2,500
$2,000
a month is what the average is for
Well,
one bedroom now in Toronto.
I think 3,000 of them are rent geared to income.
3,000
3,000, which isn't that much.
in 10 years?
Yeah.
So let's get serious, you know.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
she's getting
Well,
she's
I
getting
don't know
so
about
much
10
credit.
years. I
Like,
don't know about 10 years though.
Like
Like,
20% anticipated.
even if it's in her 4-year term or whatever the
Yeah.
rest of her term is, 2,000-3,000 of rent geared to income is not going to cover it, not even going to put a dent in the crisis, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We've got a 10-year wait list in this city for housing, and 80,000 people are on that list, or more than 80,000 now. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on.
No. This is
kinda like-
important. This is important. So like,
How does that look like?
I mean, this might be a naive question, but like, what do we do?
What does it look like when regular people get their paycheck and realize that they can't afford rent and that their loan is expired and that the repayment of their loan is bounced and now they have a new credit score which doesn't allow them to apply for an apartment, and now they have to move and they gotta give their dog to their parents
And
their
they go
parents have to
bankrupt.
save money, and they go bankrupt. And
But
you
they
can-
can't afford to even declare bankruptcy.
Yeah, you can't even afford to go and tell them you have no money, because once you do, it affects your whole life. So you can take your last paycheck and you can collect all your stuff and you can put it in a storage locker, but a couple months are going to go by and you won't be able to afford that even. So what do you hang on to your stuff for?
Things disappeared.
You got to learn skills. You got to learn universal skills, soft skills, hard skills, skills of working together, skills of working independently. And you got to find your group of people and you got to stick close to them, because the world is not what it used to be and it's getting tougher every day.
Right.
And if you can find your people, then you'll be safe.
That's why I'm learning sonic skills and hanging out with you all.
Well, I believe it's important to include different generations in your circle. I think the more generational differences you have and the more great-great-grandfathers, great-grandmothers, and down the line.
Intergenerational.
If you got intergenerational planetary, you could do a lot of stuff by learning the point of views of young children, which are very, very bright and smart and innocent in the way in which they're able to express themselves without biases like we as adults do so quickly. To great grandma who told the stories of when there were no storybooks, it was just great grandma telling the stories. So yeah, I just wanted to share that out. It's important generationally to include each other in order to learn more from each other. Where does that leave us?
No, where does that help us?
Oh, it helps connect families. It helps to understand. It helps to break down barriers. It helps cultural differences to consider the fact that maybe we're not so different at all in the way that we've been taught to view each other as just a shattered lens.
Where does that help?
Leaves us in the park.
I could give you an example of, maybe to elaborate on what Dylan's talking. Oh, sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
I want an example.
Yeah, like the relationship building. I think that's kind of like what our group's all about, right? And
Yeah.
it can manifest in acts of solidarity and acts of collective force or collective leverage against the class interests that are oppressing the working class. So, for instance, it can manifest in rent strikes. You're seeing some rent strikes happening around the city, where residents, like Dylan was mentioning, are setting aside their differences and starting to see their collective interests. And by working together, they're putting pressure on their landlords by withholding their rents and applying their leverage in that way, so that they
Yeah.
can get above guideline rent increases dropped, so that their neighbors aren't getting pushed out. They're not getting pushed out and stuff. Living paycheck to paycheck. Dylan can also talk about some of the organizing we're doing in encampments, where people are holding their ground for housing. They're refusing to take these coercive, be coerced into these shelters that many of whom find unsuitable or unsafe, and end up back in encampments after trying out from shelter to shelter, getting into problems for whatever reason. And so,
After just one day or
Now-
after just 2 days.
Are
Yeah.
these strikes for rent increases? Like a landlord's saying, okay, the price of rent is going to go up. Are they legally allowed to do that while a tenant is still living there? I thought the tenant has to move out before they can actually increase the rent.
there's a lot of. Sorry, you can go ahead, but I can name a few things that landlords are doing more commonly lately in Toronto.
Yeah.
So one thing we're hearing a lot about is the rent evictions,
Right.
and then also like landlord's own use. So those are two big things. Landlord will claim
What
that
is
they
that?
want it.
Oh, sorry.
So if the landlord says to the tenant, "Oh, I need to move in," or a family member of mine wants to move in to use this apartment, they can use that as justification to evict the tenant. And then what some people are doing is that once the tenant is gone, they'll turn around and rent it at a higher price, because those units are rent controlled and they're bound by the guideline increase every year, which is the rate of inflation. The landlords who are landlords of rent controlled units, especially in low income areas like
Yeah.
where I'm from, Parkdale, have an extra incentive to do these things. Like, say they need to do major renovations, and they call them renovictions because they're so major that the person can't be living there during the renovations.
Right.
And so so many people are getting evicted just because the landlord's claiming they want to do major renovations, and then they just like put in a new kitchen or maybe do a few things and then rent it out like at twice or three times the prices they were before, because
Right.
people were grandfathered in on lower rents from like 10-15 years ago.
Wow. So they
Yeah.
can just say, I want to renovate this room, so you have to leave.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
There's a
messed
problem
up.
with the plumbing. I need to redo the electrical. We got to take this wall down. We're gonna
Right.
put a new window in. We want to put a new entrance to the basement. We're gonna have to ask you to leave because of the dust.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about family members. Is that the landlord's family member, or is that
the landlord's family. Sorry.
So
yeah.
no, don't worry. So the landlord can say, my mom wants to move in, so you have to leave.
Yeah, I mean that's slightly less common, but there's also like demo evictions too, or like renovictions and demo evictions go hand in hand. Those are more common. And so the thing is under the rights of the tenant has the right of first refusal when they're kicked out because of a major renovation or because the building's being demolished and turned into like a luxury whatever, a new building of units. The landlord is obligated to provide a similar or better unit at the same price as the previous one.
Right.
But the thing is, these renovations or these demolitions take 5-6 years, and the onus is on the tenant to like reach back out to the landlord and prove that, or make sure that they get theirs, and that rarely ever works out that way.
Right. Yeah. That's what happened in this neighborhood too.
Yeah, and like people die in the process, especially like elderly people, right? Like the lower the rent that people are paying, the longer they've been living in these neighborhoods, the lower the rent they're paying, the more money that the landlord has to gain by using these tactics to get them out of there, because market rent's now like 4 times what they're making off this tenant. So as soon as they're out, they can jack up the rent, and so they'll do like illegal stuff like buyouts. And buyouts aren't illegal, but they're very shady. They don't have to report it, so they can offer a low-income tenant like $1,000 or $1,500, sometimes even less than that. Not even a first and last for a new place or whatever. And since the tenant is hurting for money, it's like this exploitative way that landlords can just get rid of a tenant, get them to sign a form saying that they relinquished their home or whatever. Anyway, that's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, it's really bad.
That happens a lot in the States. Actually, it almost happens like regularly, on a regular basis, because the banks were not built, houses were not built to complement people. Houses were built to complement the banks, to be never affordable, so that on a 20-year mortgage, the interest you pay is more than the worth of your house. And by the time you end up 20 years down the road, almost retired and very tired, chances are you run into some health issues that in the States will not be covered for you, and you'll lose a lot of your money that was meant for your house to medical bills, and therefore default on your mortgage, and owe the bank and foreclose and lose everything and end up in your car, living in the trailer with your dog and your cat and your pet hamster Jim.
You go by some humble dwellings and you see all these belongings outside of the house. When I used to go to the States a lot, and I'd see all these belongings and wondered why there's so many belongings. Like, we don't see that in Toronto, but we have cleanup. They want to keep this city looking clean, like whether it be around an encampment or whatever. They don't want to let people live outside. And it was so sad. Then I came to the realization it's because of eviction that all these belongings that the poor people couldn't even take with them. And it's like really a sad state. And I know we're on like different housing topic, but yesterday and recently, I'm surprised I haven't gone mad in all respects. Not sure what I can say on here. I'll just say I live in a local housing co-op, and I have an issue now. I am a senior and person with disabilities. I'm in a cooperative, housing cooperative, which is run by a board, by our bylaws, and assistant manager and upper management. And the conditions I'm living with are pathetic. And I used to work at this particular co-op for many years. And now I'm living since 2022 with an air conditioner from my above. We're called members, not tenants, but we are tenants. The air conditioner of the other person is damaged and not out far enough, and it's literally leaking in my window, inside the window, so I cannot open the window. And it's dripping on, my person. If I go down below, I have to get my assistive devices out, or wherever I have to access that. So I've gone through all the channels and procedures in keeping with the management and the bylaws. And since 2022, when that air conditioner was used, nothing has been done at all. So I had to start the process again with disabled hands, write letters, type. And then finally a friend said, why don't you go to 311? Do you know you can deal with 311 for that issue? And I'm like, well, it's either 311 or it's my neighborhood legal clinic, it's called, in Regent Park on Queen Street East. So I called 311 and I gave the member a letter by their door. Now, I had management come in to say they were doing a repair in my bathroom that leaks from the same neighbor upstairs. If I work ordered this one, it would be the 5th time I'm having to work order the leak in the bathroom above my shower. So every time the person gets in the tub, the water runs down the wall, and I have mold, and I'm immunocompromised. So there's mold in the ceiling. I mean, I know I'm going on about housing and issues, and we're vulnerable people in this building. We're aging in place. Yes, we might have RGI, and I'm grateful for a roof over our head and gardens. And like, I knew the founders and the people who organized the co-op and had the concept like an American commune where you all live together in a community, and it's thought of very nice. But the apathy of the management and the disrespect of human beings is just outrageous. And I've gone through 311. 2 weeks later, I'm still getting no action. And I questioned management yesterday, and I was told, they passed the buck and just said, I'm contacting upper management and we're working on it. I was told in May. You're working on it, and this issue's been going on since 2022. So this is how they treat paying tenants who pay their rent, who are poor too. And I'm just very disgruntled, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into this issue. But while we're on the topic of this housing issue and unaffordability and what the mayors are going to do, and I'm not finding any action if my friends go through contacting a politician even. I know that neighborhood legal services in my neighborhood in Regent Park actually might be Virgin Moss Park area where it's on Queen Street East. It was moved when the We charity got greedy and tried to buy all the buildings. Our legal clinic, they sold the building. We bought it, and the legal clinic even moved. And at the point they moved, the building they were moving into, the legal clinic, wasn't even ready at that point. So I'm not sure where to turn. I mean, I've got to call the bylaw officer. The bylaw officer's been in to chat. And yeah, they did a few repairs, but they didn't have time to do the most important, the ceiling. And I have to vacate because of the conditions, because I'm immune compromised, and the ceiling is probably full of mold.
Yeah.
So I know I'm saying it's no different whether you're in TCHC, whether you're in a co-op, or you're on the verge of losing your housing. I mean, come on.
Or you're sleeping in the park now and you're waking up every day like, how am I going
to dangerous conditions.
The street?
Yeah. And this is what some of us that are homeless are thinking. Like, I am ready to get. Yesterday, I packed a sleeping bag in a bag, and I was like, here or there, because I'm so livid with the conditions that are unacceptable. And a lot of the people in encampments that I'm not trying to speak for have had housing issues, and that's why they've ended up living outdoors in unsafe conditions, hungry in the park.
And this has nothing to do with addictions.
It's a fine line.
This has nothing to do with addictions.
Exactly.
This has nothing to do with traumas. This has nothing to do with sexuality. This has nothing to do with being human and not being deserving of what you and every other human should have. This has to do with the system that was created to benefit capitalistically from every single human to be born, so that we would never have control, we would never feel the power that we deserve to have, because we are the people and we have the power. We put the people in power, we take them out of power. So realize the power that you have, people, and find your people and remind them of their power.
And give each other dignity. Because we can't get the dignity where by law we are supposed to be served with dignity and given dignity through human rights. I just went through a meeting that was TCHC and human rights. I am not a TCHC tenant at this point. I have been for several years. And I work with Building Roots, and which I have another announcement to make later. With the Building Roots thing, it was about housing. Oh, because I work for Building Roots and Building Roots is partnered with TCHC in Moss Park. So I am a counselor and advocate, and I take care of some of the residents I support, and housing issues as well. I have to guide them on how to address certain situations. And there was a lawyer at that meeting for TCHC. That was last week, I believe I went. And there's still, like, I haven't lived in TCHC for over 20 odd years. And they're still dealing with the same issues of maintenance and lack of dignity and etc. And they're still spinning the same wheel, trying to get all those rules and what would make it better for TCHC tenants. And I'm not seeing changes much.
Well, I wonder if they'll ever figure it out. Gabriel and Ali, do you have any last things to say before we close up the show today? Nope. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. This has been News and Views with Dylan. Oh, goodness. And this has been News and Views with Dylan.
Ali.
And Thundercloud with a quick other message. The Queerness Wellness Fair, because we deserve to be celebrated beyond June. Come and join. It's information, resources, performances, and food offered for and by Two-Spirit SLGBTO plus community. It's Saturday, July 8th, and it's 11 to 3 p.m. And it's in the courtyard outside Moss Park at 260 Queen Street East, Saturday, July 8th. And you can also get food there. If you need food, you can get a bag of produce and fruit gratis, which means free. It's supposed to be pay what you can, but I think they know that some of us can't pay what we can. Thank you for listening.
Have a great night, and we'll see you next week on News and Views with Radio Regent.
Live, loud, and proud.
This is Radio Regent. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
Signing off.
Goodbye.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on all our social media platforms, and for more information, please check out our website.